Okay, it's tax season. You closed another return. Everything went correctly. The file was clean, and your clients, they thanked you for doing this for them. So overall, one more satisfied client because everything went smoothly. And I know that your firm carries so much responsibility for your clients as far as their financial outcomes. And so often, your revenue does not reflect that level of responsibility. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution. And consider this. If there were two plumbers and they both solved the same plumbing problem, then why would one charge $150 an hour and the other one charge $400? Well, that's because the one that's charging $150 an hour is replacing what broke. The other one diagnoses why it failed and ensures that this is not going to happen again, coming from a place of intervention and prevention. Now, the outcome looks the same, but the depth of responsibility is very, very different. And that same dynamic applies to your firm as well. So, yes, I understand you provide compliance work, whether it's preparing returns, reconciling accounts, filing reports, giving your clients insights and the best advantages possible. But I also know you are doing so much more than that because you care deeply. So maybe you are looking at ways to identify tax exposure before it becomes a real problem for your client, or you're spotting cash flow problems that actually are pointing to operational issues that they aren't even aware of, or possibly your guidance protects that profit before any decisions appear that is going to be able to make an impact on their business moving forward. So those are the things I know that you're doing for your clients, and you're doing that because you want to make a difference for them. So your clients, they're hiring you for compliance. We know that with most of them, but they get so much more in return. And if your pricing model is built around hours, then your fees reflect the tasks rather than your level of responsibility. And this is where strategic oversight pricing comes in. It is built on three different platforms. The very first one is repositioning your role. So what is your role? How do you want people to see you? The second one is reframing the conversation. How do you talk with your clients about what is important and how to move forward? And the third one is restructuring your pricing. Those three things are able to get your pricing aligned with the value that you deliver instead of just focusing on the tasks, the hours, and the compliance side of your firm's services. And as a result of that, you're going to engage higher quality clients. You're going to be able to actually reduce your workload. And also, this is something that goes from being an idea to something that is actually being implemented into your firm, and it makes a difference. So much more than you realize. It's worth all the effort to make this adjustment. So let's go with the very first thing, repositioning your role, because the very first thing is it is an internal shift. You have to change how you see yourself in the client relationship and to realize you can either be responding to requests or you could be guiding direction. Which one feels like a better fit for you and which one gets you a little bit excited, like, wow, this is the one that I want to be going. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just about having that awareness. Now, I realize that in the middle of tax season, you might not be having those deeper level conversations because your focus right now is on execution, getting the documents, meeting deadlines, and accurately filing the returns. But when you have a client or potential client reaching out to you and say, hey, can you prepare my return and let me know what I owe you? Maybe your current response is, of course, we'll take care of that, because that's what is typically appropriate for busy season. But I want to say that this is something that we can change, and it's just a slight change in the response that opens up a whole new level of how you're perceived and how you're actually working with your clients. So instead of saying, of course, we'll take care of that, I want you to think about saying, We're going to prepare your return and make sure that everything is filed accurately. But once we are through busy season, we're going to go ahead and schedule a meeting to review a couple of patterns I'm seeing in your compensation and distribution so we can address next year proactively. How does that sound? Now, with this response, you're still honoring your busy season. That's important. But you're also letting that person know that your role extends beyond preparation. It's going into planning, strategy, and so much more. You're actually planting the seed for strategic oversight without slowing down what you need to do right now during your busy season. So with that response, you're moving from task completion to financial leadership, and you are informing your client about what to expect moving forward once everything is taken care of for tax season. So this is how you can start to have leadership show up in your firm with your clients, even during tax season. You can start to make that simple shift right now, and it's going to have an impact once tax season is over. And maybe you have a client that says, we're tight on cash this quarter. You could respond by, well, let me reconcile everything and see where you stand. Or you could say, I'm noticing a pattern in receivables that's creating recurring pressure on cash flow. Now, if we adjust your billing cycle and review pricing, we can stabilize this before it becomes a bigger issue. The numbers didn't change, but your response did. And it's a very, very, very client-centered response that I'm giving you the exact words for. So as a result of this, you might be thinking now about, well, I already give them advice. I'm already answering their questions thoroughly. I know you do. That's because you're client-centered, but does your pricing, once again, reflect the strategic role that you are already delivering, that your clients are already providing? And if not, this is a course correction. It's an opportunity to make that course correction. And that's exactly why the first step in this strategic pricing is about looking at your role and how you're viewing yourself internally, because once you shift how you look at yourself and how you're helping your clients and really own it, then the language naturally shifts. And that goes right into step number 2, which is reframing your conversations, because language trains clients on how to view you, how to perceive you, how to realize what it is that you actually do for them, or maybe don't do for them. We don't want it to be hidden. We want it to be something that everybody has awareness about. So if you open meetings with your clients by asking, what would you like to review today? Then you are putting yourself in a reactive position. You're letting them lead. But I want you to instead start the conversation by being the leader, taking control of the conversation. You know, I was looking at your financials, and I've actually identified some patterns in your numbers that deserve attention, and I want to walk you through them. How about that for today? So that one sentence signals oversight, and that you're not waiting for the problems to surface. You're being proactive. You're paying attention to them. You're bringing things to their attention instead of waiting for them to bring something to the table to discuss. So you are being proactive. You're always thinking about what's in their best interest. That is a fiduciary role. And you might have a client now that's going to ask, well, you know, you've been giving me this insight. You've always answered my questions. Why are you charging me more than you did last year? And you might answer with something like, we spent more hours on your account. That's one way you can answer. But once again, it then anchors what you're doing to the amount of time that you're putting into something. It focuses on effort. So here's what I want you to say instead. Replace that with, this year, our work together is going to go beyond filing your return. We're monitoring your tax exposure throughout the year. We're going to be doing some proactive planning. And that means that we are reviewing your compensation strategy, your estimated payments, and even your entity structure, because things are evolving and we want you to make informed decisions before it's actually the end of year and it is time to file. So with that, your words are, yes, reinforcing the compliance side, but it's now leading with strategic oversight. And when you do that, then value pricing is actually the next natural extension of what you're doing. So that goes right into restructuring your pricing. When you price by the hour, you're paid for time. I will repeat that over and over and over again. But what happens as you gain expertise or you improve efficiencies or you bring in AI and technology? Time is not something that is going to get your firm really profitable and be able to have a firm that supports your life. It is going to be something that continues to lower your margins, and that is not the way that you actually are going to grow a really healthy firm. So we want you to start looking at how to price on value. And that's because then you are compensated for the financial responsibility you carry. Think of that, getting compensated for the financial responsibility that you carry. So I was working with a solo firm owner, and Jean was someone who was generating maybe about $220,000 in revenue each year. It was pretty stable. And during busy season, found that she was working 70 hours towards the filing deadline. Maybe it pushed up to 80 hours. It was exhausting. And even once her busy season was over, she still felt a lot of pressure. She was doing a lot. It was exhausting. It wasn't sustainable. So she knew that she was actually offering her clients strategic advisory support, and she was able to help her clients restructure compensation, reduce tax liability, and that she could quantify the difference that she made for her clients, saving one client $30,000 there, guiding another one through some changes that improved their monthly liquidity by $12,000 a month. She was making an impact for her clients, but her fees didn't reflect that strategic insight. And we wanted to be able to change that, because by getting away from charging for her time and getting over to charging for the value, that was going to be able to make her work more profitable and position her as that strategist as opposed to the compliance part. So the main thing is, once again, she wanted to look at her role and be able to own it differently, which was the first step. And then we went into the conversation. Instead of saying, send me the documents and we'll go ahead and get your return filed, what she said is, once the documents come in, we're going to wrap up your return. And I also want to go ahead and set some time aside to review 2 areas that could increase your tax exposure next year. And that way we can address them before they become an issue. And as a result of that, clients were starting to see her in a different light because of how she was leading the conversation. They didn't question her fees. And if they did, she was no longer defending her hours. She was explaining the expanded responsibility that she was taking on as she was working with them to give them the best tax advantage possible. And as a result of that, within 12 months, she went ahead and increased her yearly revenue from that $220,000 a year to $305,000. But not only that, she reduced her client base by 15%, and she reduced her weekly workload. She was able to reduce it about 12 hours during busy season. That was significant. That was almost more important to her, reducing her workload so she wasn't exhausted and that it was sustainable than it was by reducing her client load or by increasing her revenue. All those things were important, but she got back some of her personal well-being, especially during her busy season. So that is what alignment looks like, and it can be done with your firm too. So if you want to begin implementing the strategic oversight pricing, then some of the things to look at is choosing 3 current clients. This is the first step, 3 current clients, and evaluate the last 12 months with them. Identify maybe the financial risks that you might have helped them avoid. Document the decisions that you were able to help guide them in, that you had some impact on. And then estimate what was the final impact with the work that you were doing together. And then compare that impact to what you charge them for your services. Now, if there's a gap, which I expect there to be, the gap is going to be affecting both your revenue as well as your workload. It affects both workload and revenue. So that is the first thing, is to ask yourself some of those strategic questions. The next thing you want to do is think about those client conversations and how you approach them. Instead of asking what they need, I want you to open up the conversation and lead it. You want to let them know maybe you were monitoring the numbers and that you found some things that you wanted to cover during your agenda and the meeting today. So I want you to lead with something proactive instead of letting them come to the table all the time and just going with the flow. And then the other thing is, of course, when discussing renewals or scope, I want you to be able to talk about your engagement in terms of ongoing oversight, proactive planning, structured decision support. You're doing it anyway. Let's go ahead and talk about what you're doing so that they have increased awareness, because that now connects your value to the responsibility that you're holding for them, as opposed to how much time you're working on their file. So as a result of that, there will be a couple of clients who shift. I bet you even know who they are, right? They pop to your mind immediately. So the question is whether you want to have a firm built around reacting to requests or one that is built around strategic oversight. Because your best clients, your quality clients, they are going to value your clarity, that you're being proactive and you're taking care of them, you're being protective of them, and that you are leading with things that you're seeing happening. So you're guiding them forward so that they have the best tax advantage possible. They have really solid financial health. They're in good hands. It gives them peace of mind. Now, if you know that you've been operating at a strategic level, but you're pricing below that responsibility because you've been connecting your fees to time and compliance work, this is your opportunity to change that. It's more about changing your response right now if this is your busy season. But if you would like some support in figuring out where your pricing, your positioning, your client mix are not aligned, and you want to be able to make a difference so that next year moving forward, you have a way different experience, similar to what I shared with increased revenues. You maybe shed about 15% of your clients. You're not working as many hours. That is something that you want for yourself too. Then let's have a strategy session where we're looking at your revenue, what you're currently doing, and where there is room for increased profit, where you're leaving money on the table, and how to be able to be positioned as someone who's providing strategic oversight as opposed to just the compliance, and that your fees reflect the level of service and the oversight that you're giving your clients. From there, we will map out some practical next steps to implement value pricing in a way that, once again, appeals to quality clients and also gets your legacy clients up to your new fee structure. And as a result of that, it changes how you run your firm. It changes how you show up. And it is something that increases your revenues, your profit margins, and lightens your workload. So it is sustainable, and you can focus on business development because you have deep expertise, and your pricing ought to actually reflect the responsibility that you carry. So I would love to hear from you what resonated with you, what is something that got confirmed that you're already doing, what is an action step that you plan on taking, and how is it that you're going to go ahead and raise the bar as far as the level of services that you offer, getting priced for your value, so you're getting compensated for that level of expertise you're providing, and also raising the bar as far as the quality of services that you engage. I look forward to hearing from you, letting me know what resonated. Please stay connected. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to be able to double their revenue working half the time.